When you fish in Minecraft, you normally have to wait between 5 and 30 seconds to catch something. But if your fishing rod isn't directly exposed to the sun, there's only a 50% chance for each game tick to count down the timer. Meaning if you fish in a dark area, it's possible to wait forever and never catch anything. But the odds of this happening is literally a 1 in fish 7 chance. Yes, that's a real number. But there are even more absurd possibilities that can happen in this game, such as the rarest bone meal. When you use bone meal, the game checks a 15 by 5 by 15 area to try and spawn grass or flowers. It then makes 128 attempts to place these plants, but because of overlapping, only up to 113 plants can actually spawn. However, there are some insane possibilities that can happen, such as the chance for only a single block to grow grass, which was calculated by this player to be a 1 in 5.77 times 10 to the power of 26 chance. He also found if you make this exact staircase pattern of grass blocks and bone meal the center, it's theoretically possible for every single block to generate a dandelion. But the chance of this happening is only a 1 in 10 to the power of 914. Keep in mind there's only 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the observable universe, so 10 to the power of 914 is such a vast number. If every single atom in the universe was its own universe and you counted every atom in those universes, you still wouldn't even get close to the size of this. So I don't know what they're putting inside this fertilizer, but it's got to be some illegal stuff. Speaking of illegal, let's take a look at one of the most illegal things possible in Minecraft. Earlier this year, a YouTuber called Circuit Store discovered something strange on update 1.14.3. He showed it's possible for your player to perfectly align with the blocks in a wall, allowing you to clip up to 1e minus 7 meters into a block. You can do this by using commands to teleport yourself to this exact position, but it's technically possible for you to randomly get to this insanely rare spot without any commands, allowing you to literally climb walls in vanilla Minecraft. This would be like your atoms aligning perfectly in real life, letting you phase through objects at will, which is actually theoretically possible with quantum tunneling, believe it or not. But anyway, this was patched after the 1.16 update, except for non-full blocks, so you can still do this on the latest version if you're smart enough. But now let's look at something that you can randomly find if you're extremely lucky. Minecraft trees are usually a set height, with oak trees being up to 15 blocks tall and jungle trees reaching up to 32 blocks. But as I was browsing the internet, I came across this video which claims there's a single tallest plant in Minecraft. While at first this seems like clickbait, it turns out there's a chance for azalea trees to be abnormally tall. On the surface they don't look like much, but each tree has roots leading down to lush caves. These roots can easily reach over 80 blocks in size. However, if an azalea tree generates on the highest point possible at Y256 on a mountain, with a lush cave generating on the lowest level at Y-60, you can have a tree that's 316 blocks tall, which is 3 times bigger than the biggest tree in real life. Just imagine this the first tree you come across, but you're too much of a noob to realize how rare it is. Speaking of crazy occurrences, there's something even more extreme you can theoretically find. When you think of a Minecraft ocean, you probably picture water and beaches. However, you'll sometimes find these small islands, which can even have trees on them. By pressing F3, we can see these are still technically considered ocean biomes. So the seed finder M33 Galaxy showed me this video, which has the rarest theoretical ocean in Minecraft, purely made up of land and having no water whatsoever. He said this is only possible if a value called the base 3D noise map is set to 1 everywhere, making the entire thing look like a strange super flat world. Seems like global warming's getting out of hand. But this isn't the only extremely rare occurrence M33 Galaxy told me about. Because remember the chance where it's possible for you to slightly enter into blocks and climb walls that we looked at earlier? Well, there's also a tiny chance that you can fall straight through every single block and into the void. You might already know that on Bedrock Edition, if you walk millions of blocks away from spawn, you can easily fall through the world, because Bedrock calculates your position using 32-bit floating numbers, which aren't very precise, and make your player's hitbox get smaller the further you go from spawn, eventually leading you to fall through the world. I already talked about this in an old video, but most people don't think this can happen on Java, because Java uses 64-bit floating numbers, which are way more accurate. But M33 Galaxy told me that before update 1.17, a floating point error made it possible for your player's hitbox to become 0.125 blocks smaller at very far distances, meaning if you travel to the coordinates 16,777,216, it's theoretically possible for you to fall straight through the world like on Bedrock Edition. However, this hitbox glitch is so unlikely on Java that it would take you thousands of hours to perfectly align yourself with the blocks to make this happen. And it would be like phasing through the ground and entering the back rooms in real life. Anyway, now another seed finder called Fragrant Result told me about something even more unbelievable. Each chunk in Minecraft has a 1 in 300 chance of generating a pumpkin patch. These are usually pretty small and normally have up to 10 pumpkins each. However, the theoretical limit for pumpkins in a single patch is 96. But this is almost impossible to happen because pumpkins won't generate if there's grass or other blocks in the area. But if you found a perfectly flat piece of land with very little grass, it's technically possible for several of these giant pumpkin patches to generate right next to each other across 16 chunks, making the perfect pumpkin patch, which is a 39 by 39 area of pure pumpkins. But this is so rare, Fragrant estimates it has a 4.57 times 10 to the power of minus 575 chance of happening, which is about as rare as this guy getting a job. Holy crap. Anyway, now let me show you something else crazy. Every log on a big jungle tree has a 2 in 3 chance to check each of its horizontal neighboring blocks to see if it can place vines. However, it's possible this doesn't happen to any log, meaning you could theoretically find a tree without any vines at all. The exact chance of this varies by tree because some have more branches than others, but it's at least a 1 in quadrillions chance of happening. And it's even possible to find the opposite of this, which is a tree entirely covered in vines. But this is extremely useless, so let's hope no one actually wastes their life trying to find this. But while this only affects a single tree, now let's move on to something that can impact your whole world. In early June, I got a DM from a mysterious seed finder named Brayden. He told me when you enter a world seed, the game turns it into 2 separate 64-bit numbers that are used to generate things like biomes, landscapes, and caves. But because of the way the game generates these numbers, it's technically possible for 2 world seeds to produce the same 64-bit numbers and have the exact same landscapes and structures. The only difference is the loot will be different on each seed. Brayden also did some more digging and found a few seeds that actually have one pair of their 64-bit numbers be the same, like these 2 seeds, which have the same first number, but they don't look identical because both numbers need to be the same. However, no seed has yet been found like this, but he estimates there's a 39.35% chance that there exists a pair of seeds that are identical. You know, it's funny how these seed finders can calculate these odds, but can't calculate how to get a girlfriend. Anyway, now let's head underground, because there's a chance to find something very rare. Each block in an amethyst geode has an 8.3% chance to generate as a budding amethyst block. On top of that, each exposed budding amethyst block only has a 31% chance to spawn any type of bud during world generation. So it's theoretically possible to find a geode where all 150 blocks are budding amethysts. The geode itself also has a 5% chance not to be cracked and not be exposed to any other caves. But the probability of this is about a 1 in 10 to the power of 214 chance, which is almost as rare as you clicking join and becoming a channel member for only 149 Australian dollars. I'm joking, don't waste your money guys. Anyway, here's something cool. If you type this seed on Bedrock Edition, you'll find 2 end portals inside a trial chamber. This happened because Bedrock Edition has 2 types of strongholds. The first type are strongholds that generate under villages, and the second type are normal strongholds that generate anywhere. So both stronghold types generated right inside this trial chamber, and all the blocks were overwritten except for the end portals. But it's actually possible to find up to 6 end portals inside a single trial chamber, because the theoretical limit is 3 village strongholds as well as 3 normal strongholds generating this close to each other. But the chance of this happening is lower than you going outside, so it's very unlikely it exists anywhere within the game. But now let's move on to the end dimension. You know how when you beat the Ender Dragon, the first thing you do is go get an elytra? Well, you probably know that not all end cities generate with end ships, and so a seed finder named Faith simulated the generation of 137,000 end cities. What she found was that approximately 53% of them had end ships, and by expanding that probability to the whole world, there's a 1 in 1.15 times 10 to the power of 10.5 billion chance for the entire world not to have any end ships at all, meaning it's impossible for you to get an elytra. That's a 0.10 billion zeros 1% chance of happening, so no seed finder would even be able to find this. But as Socrates once said, if seed finding is your power, then what are you without it? Very philosophical. Anyway, back to the overworld. If you go into a forest biome, you'll sometimes find fallen trees. These are very common, and you can even find multiple right next to each other. But at the limits of possibility, there's a chance to find a whole forest only made up of fallen trees. I asked the expert Fragrant Result the chance of this happening, me. And he just said it's unimaginably unlikely. So it looks like we finally have deforestation in Minecraft. Thank you, Mojang. But on the other hand, you could find a plains biome with the opposite of this, because each chunk in plains has a 1 in 20 chance of generating an oak tree. So there's a chance you could find a plains biome where every single chunk has a single tree, making this uncanny effect with spread out trees. Yeah, it feels like you're in an ARG walking through here. But since the average plains biome has about 400 chunks, the chance of this happening is only a 1 in 10 to the power of 520, or about as rare as Bedrock Edition being playable. Anyway, I was recently scrolling on Discord when I came across this strange message. A player named MNSoof discovered this seed, where a desert village generated with 3 towers connected together. This got me thinking, there's no limit to the number of houses in a village, so that means it's theoretically possible to find an entire village only made up of these tall towers, forming a giant protective wall. Yeah, welcome to Attack on Titan. But now, let's look at something theoretically possible that pushes past the limits of reality. You probably already know that Minecraft seed finders have found incredibly rare seeds in the past, like the famous impossible seed, and other crazy occurrences like the tallest cactus. But to do this, they need to code custom programs that simulate Minecraft world generation. But in the past, there's been people who've made entire computers and even games running inside Minecraft. That means it's theoretically possible for someone to make a seed finding program inside Minecraft using only redstone, so you can search for rare occurrences right within the game. In fact, a seed finder named Matthew Bolan actually made a computer that can crack seeds with only redstone. Like, just look at this. This is straight up working computer components inside Minecraft. So it looks like this guy might be the next Albert Einstein. But now we need to address the elephant in the room. We just reached 100,000 subscribers, so I want to say thank you to everyone for making this possible, which brings me to the rarest possible event in Minecraft, which is any of my subscribers actually getting a life. Lock in, guys.